Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Edward Layne, and of course, as we always say, this program is dedicated to highlighting the progress and development taking place under the People's Progressive Party civic administration, and at the same time, respond to the lies, misinformation, and racist campaigns that are being waged by the opposition, a desperate bunch in the APNU AFC. I'm joined this evening by the Honorable Bishop Juan Edghill. Bishop Edghill is the Minister of Public Works and a Member of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. Bishop, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Good evening, Ed, and good evening to all your viewers, listeners. Certainly a joy to be here and look forward for a great program.
And certainly, Bishop, I want to get straight into tonight's discussion and to start. Um, you know, we've been reflecting and reviewing our last 12 months in office as a government under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. And I think we have spoken so much and we have highlighted so many of the stories of the development, the transformation at the community level, at the regional level, and of course, some already we've started to focus on some of the programs and projects that are going to be a transformation at the national level. I want to talk with you about the Ministry of Public Works in the first instance, and in terms of the development that are taking place. Uh, you've been up and about across this country, showing, highlighting for example, a number of roads that were done under your ministry in the last 12 months. Let's talk a little bit about what your ministry has done over the last 12 months, fitting into this national drive to transform our country.
Well, Eddie, let me begin tonight by, first of all, congratulating all of the parents across Guyana who have provided leadership to their children by, first of all, giving consent and then taking them to the various vaccination centers so that they could receive their COVID 19 vaccines, preparing them to get back out to school. And secondly, all the citizens of Guyana, and more particularly our parents of primary and nursery school children, who have been able to work through the challenges and difficulties in getting our children back to the classrooms. It's a sight to behold. We have seen the pictures on Facebook, and while I am congratulating and commending those who've already taken positive action, let me also use this moment before we get into the hardcore discussion to encourage those parents who have not yet taken that step to do so and do so shortly. Do it for the sake of your children, do it for the sake of your future, your own pride. And the one thing we all have in common as parents is that we want our children to be better than us. They have to be safe, they have to be alive, they have to be healthy in order to pursue their education, their career path, and to ultimately fulfill their dreams and the plans that we have for them. So, getting through this pandemic is very important, and I just thought that that is a good way for us to begin tonight by encouraging more of that. We have seen a lot of it today, yesterday, and we wanted to continue as we have the reopening of schools. Eddie, one of the things that I believe Guyanese are satisfied and dissatisfied at the same time about is roads. And I was just saying to a group not so long ago, there was a time when you didn't hear people complaining about roads. And it's not because the roads weren't bad, it's because roads weren't being fixed. And the fact now that roads are being fixed, people are obviously seeing how terrible their road is, and they would like all roads to be fixed. But across this country, since assuming office, in every local authority area, and I mean that literally, in every local authority area in the 2020 program, we fix roads. Currently, in every local authority area in the 2021 program, we are fixing roads, which means in every NDC and in every township. Under our urban road program, we are doing extensive work in all of the towns across Guyana, and through our miscellaneous roads program, we are fixing community roads in all of the local authority areas. And through our hinterland roads program, we are doing extensive work in the hinterland. And a lot of what we are doing is also battling the weather. We've had a very bad patch. All of Guyana is aware of that. We were underwater for several months in some areas. We've had bridges that collapsed. But I'm happy that as we speak tonight, we have been able to navigate our path, overcome those challenges, put emergency mechanisms into place, and we have overcome that. And everywhere and along every corridor, we are seeking to improve the quality of what we have so that people could be able to travel freely. And while we are doing those kinds of jobs, we are also carrying out our massive transformational agenda of opening up new roads, four-lane highways, farm to market access roads, connecting regions, ensuring that we could get new lands open for housing, agriculture, light manufacturing, agro processing, accessibility to main thoroughfares, to schools, to health centers, to places of worship, to community centers, ensuring that we bring Guyana up to a stage where we are improving life and livelihoods of our people. So that is where we are in terms of our road program, Eddie. I think you are muted, Eddie.
I'm sorry. You started by talking about the vaccination program and commending parents and so forth. I want to get down a little bit into the program to address that and to juxtapose the decision taken by right thinking Guyanese, and more Guyanese are taking the right decision to get vaccinated, and against those who are deliberately trying to mislead people into believing and trying to persuade them not to be vaccinated. I'll deal with that, but I want to come back, and you touched on the road program, which is just your ministry dealing with that. But we have had two budgets. I've had an emergency budget, and we've had a full budget for 2021. And the it's first and foremost, both budgets were budgets crafted with the interest and the working class, the poor people of this country in mind, and the benefits in those budgets, both of them, were spread across every strata of society, if you want. You spoke about the development of roads in communities and so forth. When you look at what is happening in the agriculture sector, when you look at what is happening in the housing sector, when you look at what is happening in local government, in every single sector of our country, um, as much as we're in a COVID environment, you're seeing a lot of efforts being made to ensure that the tourism sector itself uh, gets a jump start. You're seeing programs, policies, and initiatives that have written all over them benefits for the people, the social sector. But while we are doing all of this, Bishop, we have not seen, and I know we have to address sometimes, the empty cries that come from the opposition, most of it unfounded. You haven't seen a single occasion where they made proposals that will improve the lives of citizens. And I say that to make the point that we are rolling out a massive program to help farmers and householders who were affected by the floods. Floods, by the way, which weren't man-made, but were caused as a result of global climatic conditions. Of course, some of the flooding could have been averted had it been a case where the APNU, while where they were in office, were maintaining our drainage structures and so forth. But that aside, and we're rolling out a program to really try to help people, those who lost their crops, who lost whatever they had in their homes. And what are we hearing from Harman and the others? That the program, they find all sorts of ludicrous kind of excuses and claims and accusations about the program. It's discriminatory. And when they're asked to provide the kind of evidence necessary, Bishop, um, you find them running into their shells. And this is what we have to deal with in almost every area that we attempt to provide benefits to the people.
Well, Eddie, I believe the people of Guyana are aware that the 31 men and women who sit on the APNU AFC benches in the National Assembly are persons who don't have to be responsible when they speak. They have no intent of being responsible. They seem to be having a difficulty and a constant, long drawn war with truth. It is impossible for them to embrace truth, principles of truth. Their very existence is about lies and deception. Just the other night, we had the acting leader of the opposition saying, by way of what he called an address to the nation, that they represent more than 50% of Guyana. Well, if you represent more than 50% of Guyana, you should be in government, not in opposition. A simple dishonesty like that is something that cannot be ignored because obviously they have deceived themselves into believing something. They continue to repeat it as if it is true and hope that others will repeat it as if it is true. In the parliament, their debates are hollow, empty. The programs that they host on Facebook and on other social media platforms, the theories that they and the stories that they tell are scandalous, incredible. It's unbelievable that they will stoop so low to manufacture controversies, the misinformation and the misleading of people and crying wolf at every single thing that is happening. It is unbelievable. I noticed that yesterday they were loud in praise for what they call the shutdown of Region 10. But those who were driving around in that motorcade, the number of vehicles that were driving around, they fully well know people didn't shut down because they were in solidarity with their call. It was bullyism, intimidation, and fear of damage to property and businesses being looted and burned. People were afraid of the recklessness of that small group and the fact that businesses did not operate. They're trying to put an image as if the businesses were in solidarity with them. But it's just fear. And the driving of fear in people is a dangerous thing because those very same people they hope to go back to, whether it's at the local government elections or at the national elections, and says, we want you to vote for us, we want you to support us because we are good for Guyana. But you're not bringing anything to uplift the economy. You're not adding anything that will make the lives of people better. Just about the time when through the initiatives of President Ali and his cabinet, when initiatives were put in place to stimulate the economy, we first of all had the 25,000 per household COVID relief grant. That was about $8 billion that was injected into the economy. We had the flood. President Ali was able to create a package and brought it to the people of Guyana. It will be in excess of $7 billion going into the hands of people who were affected, whether they were homesteads, kitchen garden farmers, cash crop farmers, livestock owners, or large scale farmers. Money is going into the hands of communities. Coming on the back of that, other initiatives to help the senior citizens, every pensioner who's 65 years and older on the roll, the pension roll, will be getting the equivalent of 1 month's pension extra in 2021. Those who are in public assistance and disability assistance benefiting likewise. Those whose electricity bill or electricity consumption is 75 kilowatt hours per month are benefiting of 1 month of free electricity supply. Things that are going to people that clearly says to the whole world, the PPPC, we are a people centered, people oriented, people focused party, and a people focused group. You have ministers who are listening, responding, and serving the interests of the people in the communities. Whether it's our parents who want their children to get on with education, whether it's farmers who want to get back to the land, livestock owners who want to get their chickens going again, their cattle going again, whether it's the miners who want to be able to get there into our interior and make a living for themselves and their families, the loggers and the foresters who want to get out there, the homeowners who desire to have their own homes, whether it's our young people who want to have educational pursuits. Just look at the initiatives that are being rolled out, whether it's the Gold Scholarship, where young people and some of not so old are having opportunities to enhance their education. Just look at the young professionals who are getting their own homes and the low income earners who are being able to get their land title, and they're able to go to a bank and get a loan at a low interest to be able to fulfill that dream of owning their own home. Just think about the small scale businessman who want to capitalize his business by way of buying an excavator to, whether it's to do his mining or some heavy duty equipment for agriculture. The VAT, that 14% extra charge has been removed from it. The hardships that they were facing, they could now get on with their lives. Think about the senior citizens who are scrunching. Life is becoming better for them. Their water subsidy have been restored. Their electricity subsidy have been restored. Things that were taken away from them that really give them hardship. Think about the children who have had their Because We Care cash grant restored to them and the families who have benefited from that. So those initiatives have basically put Guyanese in a better position at a time when we are facing a COVID pandemic and we have just come out of a difficult flooding that affected all 10 administrative regions of Guyana. A government have been able to work with their people, look after the interests of their people, make life for people easier, and positioning them to do better while doing the major macro transformative things to modernize and to transform Guyana. So hope has been revived. People are able to trust their leaders. There's a greater level of transparency and accountability. There's greater participation in decision making. The society is more and more equal. People can see development in every village, in every area. Things are happening in a non discriminatory manner. So you have 31 people and a few that have been added to them from the lunatic fringe group that pontificates on Facebook and other social media platforms, keep repeating a set of things as if it is the truth, but provides no evidence. Their arguments are hollow. It is not based upon anything that is factual, and they just continue to repeat the same things over and over again. But we as a government, the people of Guyana, they are wise enough, they're analytical, and they're able to look, see, observe, make informed choices, make their own conclusions. So they, through their bullyism, they wanted to stop vaccination in Linden. They wanted to shut businesses down, but they couldn't stop people from doing what they choose to do because at the Mackenzie High School, parents took their children to get their vaccines on Monday. And that is the hard facts. Today, at other schools in Linden, parents took their children to get vaccines. And these are the realities. They try to mobilize the unions to challenge the vaccination program in court. The Attorney General has dealt with that quite nicely, both at the courts and in the media. These are proxies to the APNU that have filed that case. Teachers have returned to the classroom. I saw some of the video footage on Facebook of that nursery school teacher and her children singing the song about the days of the week. Reminds me of many, 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 many years ago, Eddie, when you were in nursery school and you had to do your songs and your rhymes and all the rest of it. What a beautiful sight. You see, these are sore losers who believe because they cannot govern Guyana at this time, nothing must happen. They are into what is called zero sum politics. If I can't have it, nobody must benefit. If I can't govern, let's make the place ungovernable. Let's find issues. Let's bring things to the table. Let's work in such a way that we could confuse the country, create political instability and uncertainty that development can happen. But it is in the midst of that same environment that they are seeking to create that development is taking place, progress is taking place, things are happening. So it is clear that the PPPC and President Ali and his cabinet, they are not deterred, they are not daunted, their program is not stymied by this negative approach of an unproductive, miserable, sore losing group, but we are getting Guyana going and we are moving development forward. And that is the big picture that must be looked at.
And Bishop, you touched on a couple of things again, and I want to go back to the reopening of school. And what is the big problem for these guys? These guys thought somehow that teachers, all the teachers of this country, are so irresponsible and will fall for the trap that they're trying to set for them, to encourage them not to be vaccinated and not to turn out to school, and that parents somehow will fall into that trap and not wanting to send their children to school. The fact of the matter is, and I saw a comment on Facebook, Bishop, which I think is quite put it quite nicely, that based on how this is going, we don't know, the world doesn't know how long COVID 19 will be with us. And we have to find ways and means to adapt. And one of the ways and means in which we're attempting as a government to ensure that we adapt to the changing environment is to ensure that people are vaccinated and people are safer. So that this is not just about the government wanting to reopen school. These kids have lost more than a year, and we have to find a way of getting them back into school, getting the economy reopening, and so forth. But the problem is, they thought that people would have, you know, fell into that trap that they created there about not getting vaccinated and not sending your children to school. They attempted yesterday with that staged, whatever you want to call it, in Linden, and they talked about West Bees and other places, but they were shocked. They were shocked when they saw the number of parents who were walking down the road taking their kids to school. They were shocked, and they are shocked at the number of people, including the adolescents, who are taking their vaccines. And they were shocked at the number. Coretta McDonald, for example, thought that she has some transport over teachers. So she thought that teachers would not have shown up yesterday or would not have prepared their classes. And when you saw the images of those classes, beautifully prepared, social distance, and the teachers are working with the children, the PNC, the APNU AFC, got a shock of their life. So what they want to do, they want to continue to stir up issues to create problems. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And Bishop, I recognize that this this issue of mental instability in the PNC is spreading like a cancer, like wildfire. It's spreading. So we heard the big story from Lyndon. Figuera, Figuera telling the people of Linden that look, you don't need to take the vaccine. That there are herbs. There is as we call it in the countryside, Bishop Bush medicine, and it was proven. He was saying that while Dr. Karen Cummings, a leader in the PNC, was encouraging people to get vaccinated and to say that vaccines, it is the only way to protect you from getting seriously ill and in some cases protecting you from contracting the virus. And he was saying that when MP Geeta Chandan from the APNU posted photos on her Facebook of her child being vaccinated and encouraging other parents to be vaccinated. So you have some of the young people in the PNC, they seem to be going crazy. They seem to be tripping. How could you, if you think that if you're really responsible and want to protect your supporters, Linden is a stronghold of the PNC. There is no secret about that. Why would you use the people who supported you in the elections and who continue to support you as political pawns and saying that they very well based on what you're saying there is that you're trying to somehow say that they are collateral damage in your bid to gain or to score narrow political points. This is something that the people of Linden and PNC supporters across this country must take note of.
Eddie, there's a big difference between leadership and what we are seeing in the PNC camp. Leadership is something that you have to take responsibility. You have to guide people. I would use a more ecclesiastical term, but it will make the point. You have to shepherd people. Because in shepherding, you're not only basically showing them a path, but you're also protecting, you're providing, you're feeding, you're nurturing, you're disciplining, you are bringing people to a place where they could be able to stand on their own. Leadership is not just walking and having people behind you, because you might be leading them into destruction and death. And certainly that is not leadership. Certainly that is not leadership. Now, what you have in the PNC, and it would appear, is that there's a competition to see who will be the wildest, who will be the craziest, or who will do the most stupid or say the most stupid things to gather some amount of notoriety, to get attention or get likes on Facebook. But I believe these guys are misreading something, Eddie. Viewership of a Facebook program is not the same as support. People sometimes look at these things as comedy, for evening entertainment, and others look just to see how mad they are and to see how to respond. And somehow they believe because people are viewing or people are making comments, they believe that they are gaining traction. But if you are gaining traction, then why don't you shut the whole country down? And sorry that I have to put it like that, because they lack the ability to do that. They have taken a small area where people are known by each other, And because people could be easily identified by the street they live in and the village they live in Linden, if it's a number of businesses in a cramped business area, it's a market where everybody know each other. You dare to go out there, you'll be in trouble. The buses wanted to work and move people, but they were threatened what's going to happen to them. Language was used like, uh, if you open your business, well, then you should not operate in Linden anymore. We will see to it that you don't operate in Linden anymore, sending coded messages. So people like Figuera et al., they are some of the wild men that are emerging in the PNC because there's a lack of leadership. I don't want to pronounce on who should be leader and who should not be leader in the PNC, but at least if you're going to lead a mass-based organization, your language must be responsible, your vision must be clear, the strategies that you employ must have logical conclusions. Now, let's talk about their call, no vaccination. What would be the logical conclusion for a country where there is no vaccination? The death of the people you want to lead. The logical conclusion of a government that is responsible with a vaccination program, with an enhanced healthcare service, is to ensure safety and the well being of its citizens so that we could navigate our way out of the pandemic and continue to work towards prosperity and development. What is the logical conclusion if you shut an educational system down? Eventually, you're going to have more illiterates, you're going to have more delinquents. Some people, because they're unable to get a basic education, will end up disadvantaged for the rest of their lives. Guyana will lack the kind of skills that are needed for its development. Our future could be blighted by such a cruel, unproductive, not well thought out policy that is being promoted by the APNU AFC. So it's a group of wild men. It looks like there's a race to the tape to see who could be the most notorious, who could be the most ridiculous, or who could display the highest level of mental instability, like you put it. But I think it's more madness. These people have serious mental health issues. They require therapy, group therapy, and I think one of the problems that they're having is not being in government. They have set themselves on such a pinnacle. We were in government in 2015. The election results did not go in our favor. We graciously left government. We handed over government. And the country must remember that. The PPPC handed over government. The APNU AFC didn't have to pull it. We handed over government. We went into the opposition benches. We went to parliament. Every budget debate, we presented alternatives. Our debate was showing how you could do better for Guyana when they imposed draconian policies on the people. We showed the nation in our debates and in our presentations how things could be done better, how our money could be managed better. When they went to close down Gaisuku, we showed how the industry could be saved. When they dismissed the 1,972 CSOs, we showed how the money could be found, what will happen to village economies. It was about $700 million annually as a result of the CSOs that they had taken out of the village economy, how Amerindians would suffer, why they should put it back. These are things that we highlighted and we debated in a responsible way. We didn't go out there and deceive and lie and tell people things that were untrue, and led them up a wall into believing that they should be reckless. We told people, this is how it is, but we're going to be the next government. We position ourselves to be the next government. And that is how an opposition should behave. An opposition should behave as the next government, an alternative government, not to behave like you are Bushmen. And I think I should probably apologize to people who might be offended by that term. But or they don't behave like cavemen. You lack some sense of understanding. There is no future in your thinking. Your strategies are devoid of anything that is logical. Guyana cannot remain poor for the rest of our life. We have to develop all of Guyana. We have to be able to expand the middle class. We have to be able to improve the lot of the working class. We have to be able to strengthen the various sectors of Guyana. We have to ensure employment for our people, for our young people coming out of university and colleges and those graduating from the tech vox centers that we have created. We have to ensure that our men are able to lead families with dignity by ensuring that they have wealth. Our women must not be beholden and subjugated towards men because of poverty. So we have to empower women. We have to do a job of making this country better. We have to be able to provide freedoms for our people. We have to be able to ensure that the private sector is the engine of growth and it's a job creator and that they're helping to create wealth and they're playing their role in the modernization of this country. We have to protect rights of people, but we also have to safeguard Guyana's future. And safeguarding Guyana's future is that we have to act responsibly in a public health crisis, in a pandemic situation like we are in. So, spreading misinformation about people wanting to take away your rights. I read something today. People who don't want to be vaccinated and so on, you already have restrictions. You're not just free to do what you want to do. You could drive a motor vehicle, but you must have a driver's license. You could travel to any country in the world that you want, but you must get a passport. So when you talk now about having a vaccination card, it's just a measure to ensure that society is regulated. I heard the latest thing that they're seeking to do is to agitate among the Christian community and among the religious community as if to say that the communist PPP is trying to shut down religion by saying that you have to have a vaccine to go into a place of worship. What could be further from the truth? What could be further from the truth? Such lies and misinformation and fallacious statements must be debunked. And I would be disappointed if religious leaders, no matter which religion you are, buy into that propaganda and start fueling that. Any measure that is put in place is to ensure the health and the well being of our society. We are in a real crisis. And Ed, you know, when every time I speak about COVID, I become very passionate, especially with the recklessness and the irresponsible behavior of the PNC, APNUR. I lost a sister, patient number 143. There were no vaccines available last year when she died. Last night, I lost a cousin, the father of Chelsea. COVID is not something that is far away from people. It is something that is near. It is affecting families. There are people out there who are still grieving and mourning because they lost loved ones as a result of COVID. Do you believe they should listen to the recklessness of 15 people who would like to hold a placard to shout, "My body, my choice"? Yes, it's your body and it's your choice. But why do you want to oppose those who choose to take the vaccine? Why do you want to fight against those who choose to ensure that they're properly protected in their workplace? I don't want to be in a work environment where staff members could walk into my office unvaccinated, untested, and I could be affected. You could be affected. Those of us who are listening, the teller at the bank is one of our daughters or our sons. Do you want people walking into our banking institutions, going up to the counters, unvaccinated, with this serious Delta variant that is spreading at this time, and your daughter, your son come come home and they are now positive? I got a text message early this afternoon. A young lady who I know, she's now positive. She works. She's gone home to her family. Her mother and other sisters stand the chance of being infected. This is the reality of what we're living in. And achieving herd immunity is not something that should be frowned upon or should be opposed by an opposition. This is something that we should work together on. And I noticed Roysdale Ford is calling upon the government to take a similar approach like what the Prime Minister in Jamaica did to sit down with the opposition to discuss COVID. Well, we have an opposition who don't even recognize the government. We have an opposition who is behaving reckless. The Prime Minister of Jamaica could have sat down with his opposition leader to discuss plans and measures to curb the spread of COVID in Jamaica, which is really out of sync. And we need to pray for our brothers and sisters there because that's a responsible opposition. But when you have irresponsible people, reckless people, who are saying one thing on one hand, and their foot soldiers and those who they support and align themselves with doing something contrary, then you're in difficulty. I have projects, major infrastructural projects, that are being affected as a result of COVID. I can give you one example: the Chedijagan International Airport. Most of the team that is working currently in the Corkin Wall became affected, and work there had to be stalled. It will push deadlines beyond where they should have been. Some of our road projects, COVID has had its impact on workforce. In my own ministry, where I am the minister responsible, one of our divisions, the lab where we do testing of materials and all the rest of it, had to work there had to be scaled back because of COVID. These are things that are affecting people's health. It is affecting development. It is affecting people across the board. We got to find a way to navigate it, to keep our children learning, to keep businesses going. Eddie, when you look at the social fallout of the closure of school, it is something that we will have to look at in the long run. But if we have 1,000 schools across this country, when schools were closed, that was 1,000 times 3 or 4 small businesses that were not operating. The canteens and all the people who surround those schools and sell. Those were people who were out of jobs. When we had situations of the curfew from 6 to 6, we had thousands of small people whose small business suffered, whether it's the person who do fish fries or hot dogs or other things, because at 6 o'clock the place is dead. We extended the curfew to allow for small businesses to thrive with some amount of restrictions. People must be able to earn not as much as probably they would have been earning before. We've cut out the late night openings and all the rest of it. But you have to do things that are sensible and are wise, and at the same time protect people. And as more and more of our citizens are vaccinated, we'll be able to get back to normalcy, we'll be able to do things, and we'll be able to open back up the country. And we need everybody to be on board, make conscious decisions. Don't wait until you're lying in a hospital or you're about to go on the ventilator, then to talk about uh, what should have happened. Let's be responsible now. And I believe the call to the opposition is to stop being reckless, wild, and irresponsible and provide leadership. Leadership is what is required. They will be harshly judged by the kind of leadership that is provided in these very crucial hours.
Bishop, I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening. And I want to leave on the note to make the point that you alluded to the fact that there's a whole leadership crisis in the PNC at this point in time. And sometimes one has to wonder. And I firmly believe that many of the things that they're trying to, the programs and policies and initiatives of this government, tremendous benefits to people that they're trying to smear and to dampen is because they're trying to create a smoke screen away from their own problems that they have in the PNC. Because there's an implosion, there's a leadership crisis, there's a battle, one big fight as we call it, fighting for who should be lead and who should be, all sorts of things. But nonetheless, the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration has a vision, has a plan, and I think we're continuing to implement that plan. Don't worry with the naysayers. There will be naysayers, no matter what you do. There will be those who will try to put a spin on everything. The reality is that within the last year, the train of development has left the station and is moving full steam ahead. The PNC still seem to be at the train station, and they have a choice. They have to catch the train, or they will be left behind. And history and the people of Guyana will be the judge and when the time comes, and will know who are the ones that are interested in their development and supporting programs and policies for their benefits, and who are the ones who setting them up, many of them up, not to take the vaccine and to become ill, using them as collateral and as political football in this process. Bishop, again, I want to say thanks for being part of this program. And to our viewers and listeners, it's a pleasure to have you. Bishop, a pleasure, man.
Thank you, Ed, and God bless all of your viewers and listeners. Let's all stay safe. Let us wear our masks, sanitize, observe social distancing. Let's keep a positive attitude, reach out to your neighbors, encourage each other. Guyana has a future. We all have to be healthy and alive to enjoy that future. So let's do what is necessary now.
Thank you, Bishop.